All right, hi, my name is Patty Heintz, and I've been taking this flipped classroom, flipped learning class. And one thing I actually really like is I like the idea of flipped learning more than flipped classroom. So honestly, here I'm going to even do this right now. Flipped learning. I think it's more than just turning it around and watching videos. One thing that I've been talking a lot about differentiation as choice for students, and so I don't think that videos are the only way for students to be able to do their learning outside of class. But I really love the idea of more time for practice with them. And so when they get frustrated, that they can ask for help before they get so frustrated that they quit, that students aren't practicing incorrectly, like if they're making a mistake that I can catch it before they do it 15 times. So some of the goals that I have for my flipped learning, I really want my students to become active learners. I cannot stand it when I ask a question and they just passively sit there and wait for it to be answered for them. So a lot of times in my classroom, like there's like flip cards and index cards and things where I'm like, do you have your notes? That's always the first question. Open your notes, go to this thing, here's your resources. And so I'm hoping that if I can get some more buy-in with a lot of this options for differentiation, that maybe students will do that less. I also want students to be able to teach themselves, like it says right here for the second highlighted point. One of the ways that I've done that is my learning management system that I've kind of come up with, and I'm going to go over that in depth. So what it is that the students are going to see every day rather than what they see today, and give them the tools to just be able to go and figure out information. I really want to increase the students' ability to ask relevant questions. One of the things that I think that my new flipped learning will do for this is that it's going to give students time to be able to process before they get here. Whether they're doing that processing actively or not, will depend on the student. But even, you do some homework, you go to sleep, you kind of think through things. And so then when you see it again, you're like, oh, I wonder about something. And so I'm hoping that this time actually allows for there to be questions, because, you give a lecture and the kids sit there and you go, any questions? And not a single person will raise their hand. They haven't had any time to process or come up with questions. They've just been writing too fast and listening to you. And I'm really excited about the opportunity for that. More better questioning coming from students. I think processing time will be a huge portion of that for them. I want to be able to use my class time better, and I think that you're going to see this with the example that I've done, is that rather than using the class time to take notes, they're using the class time to do something with those notes, and that means that the kids are engaged, they're spending more time with it, and I think going to be able to make it so that I can come around and ask these really these high-level questions like how, why did you do that, how are you showing? Really high level for Bloom's level questions. And then this options being a bigger part of the differentiation, that was actually one of the biggest takeaways, I think, for me for this class, as rather than the whole class doing the same thing because it's easier and I can't keep track of that many things, and really looking at that as part of my differentiation rather than taking an assignment and trying to force it to a student's needs. For example, my kids just did a book report, and so I've got a severely dyslexic student, and so he watched an hour documentary instead. And so it's kind of making a square peg fit in a round hole, and this kind of opens up the ability and gives them more autonomy and ownership of their learning. So a couple things here on why I decided to go into this. Kids have time to process that I was talking about, and really that active rather than passive learners. All right, so all of these documents that you see, the primary audience member for this document that you're going to get, this looks like this. This is mine. This is my notes for me. This is something that I'm going to come back to, write on all the time, add little notes, add little links, add little ideas and things like that. And then every once in a while when I have these type of documents, I'll print them and I'll go through and I'll read them and highlight them and cross them out, just to kind of keep myself organized. I have kind of a organized chaos attempt of teaching and trying to keep track of things. So really this may not make sense to you, the organization, but it works for me, and that's kind of the primary audience for it. The secondary audience is my students, so you're going to see there's some links in here that I've got for artifacts for the students to see. For example, my new LMS, my Google Doc for the day. This is my new LMS system for my students. It'll tell them what to do and then choose your own adventure. And so having them busy when they first arrive to the room with real work and not busy work is really important to me. I need it to be real so that the students buy into it because they know what busy work is, but I need them to be busy because I have some things I have to do as a teacher. Absent students, attendance, answering an email in the 5 minutes between classes because that email has to be answered right then. There's just some realities to teaching that I need the students to be busy as they arrive. And then the tertiary, the final audience would be my peers. I would probably end up sharing this document with them. You're going to see that one of my troubleshooting is going to be my PLC. And working in a PLC group, I'm really lucky. I'm only a third-year teacher, but I have, my PLC includes teachers that are 20 and 22 years experienced. My implementation is going to begin immediately. It's going to come out in pieces. So the immediate is going to be the Flipped Classroom 101. They talked about this a lot at the beginning of the course. Watch the video at home, come do the worksheet in class. It's a good place to start. But the thing is that the Flipped Classroom 101, I think, is a good start. But really, I want to switch this to flipped learning. And so what that means is that I'm going to have to build on it. And I'm going to have to be adding implementation in steps, both as I get better at it, as I try something, and gaining some confidence. And how I'm going to know what next steps to take is going to be a lot in my evaluating progress. So it's the middle of the year, and so it's awesome. I'm going to be able to compare student assessments from before and after break. And it's the same group of students. Now, they're growing as students, they're growing as learners, they're getting more confident, they're getting more valuable in their learning, but being able to compare the students directly, I think, is going to give me a lot of information for how well this is working, and being able to separate those by language learners, who needs more support, and our IEP students. I really can think of 5 or 6 kids that I think are just going to be able to latch onto this. They're like my high D, maybe pull a C type students, and I really think that they're going to just latch on to these types of choices and this organization system that I have. The other thing is I'm going to be asking student opinion a lot. I asked for reflections. I did one-to-one conversations on table groups, so a lot of this is formative. Some of it is a little bit more formal assessment for student reflections, but I think that if the students hate it, they're not going to do it. So I need to figure out ways, which part of this did you like? Which part of this would you change? To be able to keep them bought in so that they keep doing it. And then I'm kind of excited about this last one idea that I have, is that I want to give kids an entry ticket and an exit ticket. And obviously this won't be every day, that's just classroom management stuff. But I want to see what kids know when they walk in after doing the homework, after just watching it, watching the video, taking the notes, no practice, and then after 80 minutes of practice with me and being able to put that learning into action. I'd really like to see the differences between them. So I am going to press pause for video 1 right now and then move into video 2. So sorry that I'm making you click on 2 links, but just to make sure that everything, transfers correctly and it's not too long to be able to upload for you to be able to access. I wanted to do this in 2 videos. So when I get back, I'm going to show you my plan. I have 1 lesson pretty much written and completed, and the next lesson is started. So I want to show you what my new flipped learning will look like. So stay tuned. 1 moment.